Okay, again, thank you for your time today,
Yeah,
John.
of course.
My first question for you today is, you grew up between two iconic landmarks, Cadillac Ranch and the Amarillo Ramp.
I did.
How did being surrounded by these works shape your sense, of art and place?
Well, Emerald Ramp for me was sort of the beginning, meaning that I didn't, I was always doing art and making art, but I didn't really understand what art was in the larger context. And going out to Emerald Ramp really taught me about art from an art historical context. And like, it's very interesting to go out to this piece that is super contemporary, but also connects all the way back to Neolithic and Paleolithic work. So I really enjoyed that kind of big picture. And so really what it did was allow me to see the world kind of from a different viewpoint than what I was used to in the art world. And in Cadillac Ranch, I went there since I was a kid, and I actually used to live in Sleepy Hollow when it was back where it used to be where the Sam's is right there off Sauncey kind of. And so I would ride my bike out to Cadillac Ranch and just hang out. And it was really fun and weird, but I didn't know that it was art. And then once I kind of got tuned into Amarillo Ramp, then I became much more aware of what Cadillac Ranch was, including get to hang out with the artists. And I think tomorrow Glass Tire has an article coming out that I wrote about Cadillac Ranch. So it's something that just kind of showed me the possibility of what art can be.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Oof. Route 66 is often called the Mother Road of America. From your perspective in West Texas, what does that truly represent culturally and visually?
Well, I like to say it's a thread that runs through my life, and meaning that a bunch of my life experiences have occurred on Route 66. And specifically, obviously, mostly here in Amarillo, but I spent a lot of time on Route 66. And I think it's kind of where culture grows up in these areas, or it's a little bit more of an established culture. So, I mean, not to get too far into the weeds on what has happened on Route 66, but it's where I bought my first beer. It's where I got my first fight. It's where I met my ex-wife, and those are all bad things. But they're not bad things. But it's just kind of a lot of fun realizing all of the stuff that happened in these places, and then when I moved to Albuquerque, I worked on a gallery that was on Route 66 and a nightclub on Route 66. I've also had strange historical coincidences being on 66. So I think it's just sort of we'll call it a cultural generator. And I think I was always been attracted to that.
Yeah, awesome. And then talking about the gallery that you used to work at, can you tell me a little bit about your experience with the Dynamite Museum and Yellow City
Yes.
Art Gallery?
Yeah. So, Dynamite Museum is the art collective that put up all the signs around Amarillo. That's was my first job, and that's how I got access to Amarillo Ramp and became more knowledgeable of. It wasn't my first job, but it was my first art job, and I think that also showed me the possibilities of art and had a little bit more sense with it. I do think while it wasn't Route 66 centric, San Jacinto probably had the highest concentration of any signs anywhere. And so again, that Route 66 thread's been central to it. But I think that project is a little different from Route 66, meaning it does play on some of the similar tropes, but it's definitely post Ant Farm who were very into 66. Um, but my gallery, Yellow City Art, was actually originally on 10th Street, right across from where I painted a mural for Hoodoo Festival, which is even weirder. But then our last manifestation was actually on 6th Street in downtown Amarillo. I think it's called YOLO's now or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But we were there and we had a really good time until we made the front page of the newspaper and we didn't have any fire code or fire marshal. The fire marshal called me and politely told me I probably shouldn't be open anymore. But yeah. So, and it's always kind of been a thread that it really is resounded to me. And I used to play in bands and almost every place we played was on Route 66. So I think it's always been, the gallery was, we did music there, we did raves and stuff like this, but it was, I didn't really think of it being on 66 at the time. It was just where you put stuff. So it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump forward to that question because I
Yeah.
was just excited to hear about it. But backtracking to the Amarillo Ramp, your work investigates a lot of the Amarillo Ramp and incorporates tessellated geometric abstraction.
Mhm.
How does the landscape of the Panhandle influence the forms, patterns, or rhythms in your art?
Actually, we could use the Amarillo Ramp mural on 10th Street as sort of an example of that. So, I for a while did what was called the Rural Mural Project, and it uses these tessellated patterns. The tessellated patterns come out of sacred geometry. I was a Latin club president at Amarillo High School a long time ago, which makes me very cool. But you learn about all of this sacred geometry, and then I began to investigate the patterns because of an experience I had in a bookstore in Portland, Oregon, where somebody had called me and told me a family member had broken into my house. I happened to be looking at a book of patterns, and it was specifically the tessellated patterns that just kind of calmed me down, and made me feel more relaxed. So I think there was something effective about it. I like the kind of it's grid based, but it's more aesthetic grid based, so that appeals to me in a lot of ways. And so when I started doing the rural murals, I really use the locations and certain color palettes based on the areas. And so even though the murals don't look like they represent anything, they are definitely site specific, meaning I built the murals off designs from the community in some way. So using the Emerald Ramp mural, um, which is called, what did I title that mural? Um, what's 50 years when you think in millennia is the name of the mural. And so I went out to Amarillo Ramp every month for a year. And at the end of the month, and took pictures of the Amarillo Ramp. So I have the entire changing of seasons through the time. And so that tessellated pattern of the Amarillo Ramp mural is three different color tones. One is the changing of the plants. So it's this kind of faded green that goes and gets richer and then fades away again. One is kind of how the dirt becomes more prevalent. So you see the dirt sort of shift. And then actually the center shape is based on the changing of the light of the Emerald Ramp during the day. So it's this actual tracking of a year of color change through the site. So
Oh,
I use it as kind of as a grid to structure things and to form ideas.
oh, that's so cool.
Mhm.
Um, as an educator and director of the art program at West Texas A&M University, how do you encourage students to engage with visual and historical culture of Route 66, if that's a skill?
I do. I talk to them a lot about the importance of 66, and I talk to them about these connecting things that not only connect us in space, meaning we can drive from 66 to Oklahoma City or to Albuquerque, but also time. So you can look back to a different time. And for me, I can think of all these unique experiences on 66 through that time. So I encourage my students always to think more in the big picture. I do think that culture is an important part of what we do here. And I think Route 66 is definitely kind of an epicenter for culture, especially in this region.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, so we don't, we've talked about it before, like Dr. Von Lintel, who's the art historian, and we've taught a class on networks and the importance of roads. I actually am writing, and I just published, sent another piece off to Southwest Contemporary about another highway, but I do think there's something special about a road. Like, like I say, it connects through space and time. So I like that. I like my students to think about things not just from a set viewpoint, but from multiple different viewpoints.
Yeah, absolutely. Public art and land art are both central to your practice. How do you see installations along Route 66 shaping the way people experience the environment?
I think it really just marks the importance of the structure. I think that the art itself can or doesn't have to necessarily relate with the road. But I do think the road is how you get there. So I think it's important to it. I think, Cadillac Ranch specifically is playing to that trope. But I think something like Amarillo Ramp wouldn't care. Like, actually, it's not even close to a road. So it does allow people to move around. And I do think that I love the idea of a really giant art gallery that is a road, as you drive 300 miles. I actually, for a long time, wanted to do various murals or billboards all the way between here and Albuquerque. I also want to try to do it in Dallas. So the gallery viewing site would be driving down the road.
That would be such a cool project.
Mhm.
I'm excited to see if that comes into
Well, if
fruition.
you got like $1 million or 4 million, it would be great, but it's super expensive. But that's the scale I'm working at. So, I mean, I'm a professor now. I'm actually not just professor. I got promoted not just to the director, but I am now the chair of art, theater, and dance. So it's a lot is the right way to say that, but it is opening me up to other art forms such as theater and dance. So
Hmm.
I'm just kind of learning to see a bigger picture now. And I do see those things all connected. And I would say, doing something like an art show on a highway would almost be something along the lines of theater. It's like this moving, slowly moving image. So it my ideas are always expanding, but I think, I'm not going to do this job forever either. And I think when I get to that place, I will retire and move to these larger scale projects
Yeah.
because they take money and this job pays me money. And so I have to save my money so I can make that artwork in the future.
Yeah, money and time for real, money and
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
Now backtracking because I did jump ahead earlier when we were talking about, the Yellow City Art Gallery at Dynamite Museum, but backtracking again, looking back at your time with the Yellow City Art Gallery and the Dynamite Museum, how have those experiences contributed to Amarillo's contemporary art scene today? Was a mouthful.
Um, well, like it or not, Stanley Marsh is responsible for a major contemporary way of thinking here. And I don't really want to speak to the later part of his life. But for a period, he was the only person bringing those things in here, and he and his family, specifically his wife Wendy,
Yeah,
really taught me the importance of art and culture. And this is something that you do not see a lot today, which is they saw the price of their wealth was to take care of culture. That was what they thought. We've been given this gift of wealth, and our job is to maintain culture with this wealth. And so that's something that always has kind of stuck in my head,
yeah.
and really seeing the role of how that worked. So um it yeah, that's kind of the I guess the bigger picture there is really it it is sort of important. I've sort of lost my train of thought. What will you remind me of the question is again? I
I
just
sure can, I sure
yeah,
can. I'm
yeah,
more than happy to.
yeah.
Looking back at your time with Yellow City Art
Okay.
Gallery and the Dynamite Museum, how have those experiences contributed to Amarillo's contemporary art scene today?
Oh, so I did answer the question.
Yes, you
It
did.
did.
Yes, you did.
But I think that Yellow City is just one of a long line of underground gallery punk rock clubs that have always existed. That was my turn to do it. And, places like Caliche and other places are 806, places like
Yep.
that are kind of carrying on that torch. So I think every town sort of needs a DIY space if it's a punk rock club or an art gallery. So I do think that contribute to it. For me personally, it was kind of earning my chops, I think is the right way to say it, showing that I'm out there willing to do it. And so I think that helped. It also taught me to be sort of a leader and definitely playing out to the role I'm in now. So,
Awesome.
mhm.
Okay, my last question for you today, and then we're done.
All right.
When people travel through Route 66 and through Amarillo, what details or moments do you hope that they notice most when visitors, or sorry, let me restart that question.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry.
You're
When
good.
people travel Route 66 through Amarillo, what details or moments do you hope they notice that most visitors might overlook?
Um, Phew, that's a good question. I think notice things that what would be the right way to say this? Notice the
Take your
beauty
time.
in places where you don't normally see it. Like an old beat up building can be just as pretty as a fancy new shiny thing. And in fact that bike ride, what I focused on specifically was the ruins of Route 66. And it wasn't an anti 66 thing. It was just this is the evolution of time and these are the things that are happening and there still is a beauty to those things. So I would encourage people just to stop and find something beautiful. And there's plenty of that in Amarillo specifically.
Awesome. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for your time. You did
Of course.
amazing. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited to be able to write this story for
Yeah,
you. It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited.
great. Yeah, if you need pictures or anything of that, I'm happy. I have a bunch of photographs from the bike ride and things like that. So,
Yeah, we'll
great.
definitely be getting those from you for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you.